Welcome to the RPG Rundown. I'm Seth.
And I'm Jeff. From Dungeons to Deep Space, we've got the systems and the stories for your table. Now, Matt Colville and the amazing team over at MCDM have released their in-development TTRPG system. They've released the first playtest packet of it, and the name has been revealed as Draw Steel, which honestly just sounds amazing. But they've released that in the custom system, and the backers received an email with the links to the packet for creating a level 1 character with only 5 classes to start, but enough to get playing. And I can't wait to actually playtest this. But today we're going to take a deeper look at Draw Steel's playtest packet. Before we do so, Seth, do you want to go and hit us with some TTRPG news?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple of things that have been in the news lately since our last episode. First, obviously, you know that we are fans of the Cosmere RPG, and their Kickstarter finally
What?
ended.
Never heard of it.
Right? I don't know. It's only the biggest TTRPG Kickstarter of all time now,
Oh my goodness.
surpassing the Avatar Legends, and
Okay.
as also one of the biggest Kickstarters of all time.
Wow.
I don't know where it ranks, but it's pretty high because it ended with 55,106 backers who pledged a massive $15,149,874. Insane.
It's a little bit of money. Little bit of money.
Insane. Yeah, they absolutely killed it. It's awesome. I definitely backed it.
Yeah.
And look forward to getting into it as things come down the line further. So, also, too, if you did not catch our actual play of the Bridge 9 adventure in the Cosmere RPG with special guests from the Pocket Dimension and Seth from Seth of All Trades. Matt was from the Pocket Dimension. And then also CJ from Next Gen Nerd Podcast and Hearth and Hammer. He's one of my players.
Oh, nice.
You should definitely check it out because it was a lot of fun. It was really good. And yeah, I think, that may not be the last time that we visit the Cosmere in an actual play. We'll see. We'll see where we go. But
Yeah, no, I have my doubts that was the last time. And
yeah,
what a collaboration! I mean, if you haven't watched it
yeah.
yet, what are you doing with your life? What are you doing?
Yeah, you should definitely
You
check
should
it
go
out.
check it out.
But it's on the YouTube channel. It's in the actual plays playlist. So definitely go check it out there. Also, too, just thanks to our special guests for that because they did an amazing job, and it was a lot of fun. So thanks to all three of you guys. Okay, well, there was also this other little tidbit of news with Wizards of the Coast. A little bit of controversy, if you will.
Wizards of the Coast doesn't do controversy. We know that.
Right. They're just so even keel and always listen to their players.
Always.
This
podcast wouldn't exist if they did that.
It wouldn't, honestly. So similar to the OGL scandal of over a year ago, they made a little bit of a marketing blunder, announcing that they were going to replace everything on D&D Beyond, including all existing characters, with the 2024 rules updates for all said characters, which a lot of people were not happy about. They were definitely...
I can't imagine why.
They were definitely not happy about it at all. And I totally understand, because while I get you want the 2024 rules update, a.k.a. 5.5e, aka 6th edition, I don't know. It's
whatever it is.
aka
pay us more money.
Errata for 5e. I mean, like, what, they could have gone with any of those options to be less confusing, but
right.
Anyway, they I get if they want that to be the default, but yeah, like trying to force all the old character sheets to basically transfer over that would break a bunch of characters and a
Oh,
bunch
that
of.
would break campaigns, dude.
It
I
would
mean,
break
just
campaigns. It would break items and spells and all sorts of
mhm,
things.
right.
And at first, they doubled down and were like, "Yeah, you're just gonna have to homebrew everything."
Yeah, yeah.
Not
And the
well
thing is,
received.
as
Not
as
well
we talk about this,
received.
like I feel like every time we talk about D&D here, like it's in a negative light. We love D&D.
We
I
absolutely love
just
it.
sometimes question WotC's human resources department or their
Their
public relations department.
their
I
PR, their marketing, all the above.
yeah, I really like I don't sometimes it's just the way they try to like just force things on their player base. It's just kind of like, do you not want your company to succeed? Like, is there something really going on behind the scenes?
The
I don't know.
problem, I
It's
think,
crazy
is
to me.
that there's somebody in corporate who's running those, as opposed to someone who's
Mhm.
actually in marketing or actually in PR. I don't
Right.
know. It's ridiculous, but uh, it there was another round of
Mhm.
massive subscriber drops from D&D Beyond, um, which they pay attention to,
Mhm. Yeah.
and that, along with the big outcry of the community, they reversed course within less
Mhm.
than 48 hours. So it
Right.
was like they didn't even make it through the weekend. It was like Sunday after
Yeah.
they announced it on a Friday. So yeah, that was that was
That
interesting
happened.
for
Yeah.
sure. Thankfully, it didn't take as long. They did reverse course though,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
you know
Good.
we'll see. Um, but yeah, that was interesting. The little tidbit. Um,
Mhm.
on a positive note, let's give them some positive news. I didn't put
Okay.
this on here, but they did announce that there was going to be more third-party content coming to D&D Beyond, which I am all for.
Okay. I like that. Yeah.
Um, and they listed MCDM, they listed
Mhm.
Kobold Press, they
Okay.
listed Ghostfire Games, they listed a whole bunch of third-party. Free League Publishing, which you're like, Free League Publishing, are they going to put other systems on there? No, Free
Mm.
League Publishing has some 5e content. Specifically,
Okay.
they have the Lord of the Rings 5e edition.
Ooh, okay.
And
That's cool.
so and that alone is almost a completely different system within 5e. So, um, I've listening to other podcasts talk about it. They were hopeful that this means that maybe D&D Beyond will finally be adding better homebrew tools for full
Mhm.
classes. Because we can't do some of the homebrew classes that are out there that are very popular
Mm.
in D&D Beyond's current system just with subclasses right now.
Right. Yeah.
And so if D&D Beyond, their homebrew tools get better and they can allow for fully custom classes, that would make me take another look at it, honestly.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, that'd be pretty
you
great.
know, I love Alchemy RPG as a VTT,
Mhm.
and I think that they're going to have some amazing tools when they finally launch
Mhm.
1.0, and they're very close to doing that.
Right.
But I think that, you know, especially for playing 5e, because I still play 5e
Mhm. No,
and I
I do
still
too.
want to play 5e. But I think for playing 5e, I think that D&D Beyond will still be probably the best option.
Mhm.
And I do have an investment in D&D Beyond from years past that, if I can go back to it, then I probably would. So,
Mhm. Yeah. And that's fair.
um,
And ultimately D&D Beyond is very good. Like I mean,
yeah,
D&D Beyond is the most intuitive way to get into like
it's
TTRPGs.
the
Like I mean, it's the most
it's the
intuitive way to
best character builder for
it's
sure.
the best character builder like hands down. And I mean, I think that's probably
For
one of the
now.
most frustrating parts is like it's the best character builder and it's only 5e, you know?
Yeah.
I know we have like Demiplane and stuff. Demiplane's good. Like we
Well,
use
Demiplane
Demiplane
doesn't
for
have their
Codsmear and
5e
stuff.
character builder out yet.
Right. Well,
not
I was
in
actually
the
meaning
same
more
way.
for like other systems. Like
Right.
I wish other systems had similar character builders. Then I'm like, Demi-Planes is very good actually.
Oh
So,
yeah, very good.
mhm,
Okay, so that's all that we have for Wizard of the Coast and D&D for the moment.
mhm,
That we're gonna cover.
right.
um, Monument Studios. If you know
Mhm,
us at all, in our former campaign in Hearth and Hammer and in my current campaign, um, any most every all the music that we use is from Monument Studios. They have incredible movie quality sound effects,
mhm,
music, and they have been running a beta version of a soundboard essentially for the better part of a year and a half. It's fantastic, but they are actually have a Kickstarter that is live now for a fully fleshed out new version of that soundboard platform. Um, there's a subscription you can do along with that to be a part of it. But it's going really strong. There's about, as of recording, which we're recording probably about 4 or 5 days before this. No, but a couple days before this goes live.
mhm.
There's 9 days left, so there's probably be about a week left of the Kickstarter. And I know right now they are, I think their goal was 50,000, and they're at like 200 plus.
Nice.
So they've
Yeah.
definitely met their goal
Hmm.
and surpassed it in a big way. Um, yeah, and so I'm probably gonna back it at probably one of the lower levels to begin with. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's some integration with Alchemy RPG as well.
Hmm.
And so yeah, but their stuff's so good, so definitely go check them out. And then, last thing for the news today, The Expanse, sci-fi RPG, which is based off of the show, which is based off of a book. um,
Yeah.
excellent show and book.
Hmm. It's very good.
And what I've
I've not read
seen
the book.
of the RPG is really good, but we
Hmm.
haven't played it yet. But it is on our list.
It is on the list.
But they're
We
having
checked the list.
we checked the list. It is on the list. They're having a relaunch. Um, uh, so it's called the Transport Union Edition, and it is an update and revised core rulebook that actually takes players 30 years into the future in the Expanse storyline. It's 100% compatible with existing characters and ships. It just moves the timeline forward, and I love that because then it. So as you know, BattleTech is one of my favorite universes, sci-fi universes. BattleTech is similar in that the rules are the same, but there's a timeline that stretches across like 100+ years or more. And so you can pretty much pick and choose. Oh, I'm going to play in this time period. I'm going to play in this era. I'm going to play in the. So I love that. The rules are the same and backwards compatible with all of the old source books and everything. Everything's still compatible. They're just updating everything and moving the timeline forward. I love that. So very cool. And that's, probably this is probably bumping it up the list a little bit, but man, we've got
Hmm.
so many on the list.
So it's a pretty long list, and the thing is like a lot of the games we were the most excited for, um, are coming out like all at once. Like those games were on the list, like DC-20, Daggerheart, MCDM, right? Like these games were on the list, but they were on the unreleased category, and then all of a sudden they just start dropping like one
Yeah,
after another,
really,
and that
really
is
at the
just
beginning of the summer
yeah, it's just
is
stole our attention for now. I mean,
yeah. So
Cosmere RPG was just skyrocketed up the list.
Daggerheart,
I mean,
Draw
yeah.
Steel,
Yeah,
so
yeah. I mean, so, but Draw Still is the last one in the unreleased category. So maybe after this one, we actually get to our numerical list.
I think we're gonna have to, yeah.
So going off that, out of my numerical list, my number one game is still City of Mist. Do you have an update to yours? Do you know what your number one game is?
I don't right now,
No.
honestly.
Okay.
I'm up in the air, but
Okay.
speaking of, uh, they did just add City of Mist to Alchemy RPG.
Did they really? Oh, look, you're
Yes, they
perfect
did.
timing.
So So we'll see. But
Mhm.
but let's move into our discussion for today,
Yes.
because we're already 15 minutes in and we haven't gotten there yet.
We haven't even got there. All right.
We're gonna take a look at the Draw Steel Backer playtest pack.
Mhm.
And so we're gonna dive into it today because neither one of us have had much of an opportunity to look at it. So we're gonna go over, kind of hit the highlights, and then, once we've had a chance to play it, then we'll give it a critical look.
Yes.
And so, yeah, and then give it a good review. But
Mhm.
let's go over into our presentation screen. If you're watching on the YouTube, if you are not watching on the YouTube, definitely go and check us out.
Mhm.
YouTube.com/the RPG Rundown LTN.
Yep.
It is our new channel. So if you were following,
Mhm.
if you're following our actual play channel and you haven't followed our new channel, or if you're following the Love Thy Nerd channel in order to
Mhm.
get updates for the RPG Rundown, make sure to give our new channel a follow. It has all of our old episodes on there and our actual plays on a playlist there. So check it out. Give us a like and subscribe, and comment. Let us know what you think after we
Yeah.
go over this
Yeah.
and
Comments
other
are
things.
huge. Would love to know what your thoughts are.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Draw Steel
Mhm.
from Matt Colville and MCDM. First of all, they did not launch on Kickstarter. They just launched on BackerKit. And so it was a
Okay.
little less publicized unless you were
Right.
following MCDM, but they did raise $4.6 million,
So,
and have
a few people still found out.
and
Yeah.
have 30,000 backers. So Matt Colville is obviously one of the biggest names in the
Mhm.
TTRPG space
Mhm.
and puts out incredible work. But
Absolutely.
yeah, so that was really cool to see that. But they sent out the backer kit,
Mhm.
and so we're gonna look at it.
Yeah.
There was a ton of stuff in here. We're gonna kind of hit the highlights.
It's yeah. And so it
But
should be noted, as you're showing it here too, is
yeah,
that this is not the fully fleshed out rules guide or anything like that. Like it's literally a Google. I mean, not literally a Google Doc, but it's just a document. There's
yeah,
no images. The graphic,
I
the
would
art's
say,
not all there yet. It's coming. It's just not there yet.
yeah, I would say, a Word doc,
Yeah,
a
it's a
PDF.
Word doc. Yeah.
So, but they did send quite a bit of stuff in this playtest
Hmm.
pack. They sent
Oh, absolutely.
a folder with some art for each of the ancestries,
Hmm.
which is what they call their races or species.
Hmm.
They sent character sheets. They sent a couple maps because they did send actually 2 adventures, an intro adventure, which I think is awesome,
Yeah.
and then a follow up for that, which is kind of open
That's
world.
nice.
Yeah. And then some tokens. They're pretty basic. There's not a lot of art on the tokens.
Right.
But then they sent a Draw Steel backer playtest letter, which I did want to just show for a moment. And basically, it was just kind of an open 1-page letter to say what's inside this playtest packet. They're super excited to show off the first playtest packet for Draw Steel, which is the name, which was also announced with this playtest packet. It's got the rules document for how to play, containing first level of 5 of their 9 classes, the Conduit, the Elementalist, the Fury, the Shadow, and the Tactician.
Hmm.
So that's pretty awesome. I love that they're a little bit different named and
Right.
not exactly standard. So
Hmm.
it also includes all 12 ancestries that will be in the book, rules for character creation, combat, negotiation, and tests, which are skill checks. They're not the complete rules. They did mention that there's still going to be rules for crafting, research, treasure, downtime, and more. That'll be part of the final product. So this is just a little bit. There's a small bestiary that comes with it.
Hmm.
And then there's 2 adventures. Like I said, Bay of Black Bottom is the introductory adventure, and it's for supposed to take 2 to 3 hours to do, which is pretty short.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's the Fall of Black Bottom, which is the sequel, and it's serves up a bunch of combat encounters. They said it's also modular, so it could take between 8 and 16 hours to finish. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool that they
Right.
included 2 adventures for this playtest packet. But yeah, and then just a little bit of asking for feedback, talking about how the core of the game it has been finalized, that it's a 2D10 system, and then some information on their subreddit and their Discord. So very cool letter there. And then looking at what else they included. We're going to get into the rules in a second, but there's credit. There's a credits thing. There's a cheat sheet.
Right.
There is also the a license for it. For the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So, but let's get into dive into the rules, shall we?
That is a great place to start, and that is, the most extensive thing that you get in this is the rules document.
Yeah, it's 127 pages, which
Mm-hmm.
for
All text.
all text. So
Yeah.
you can imagine with art, this is
Mm-hmm.
easily going to be 200 pages.
Yeah, I think so easily. Yeah.
And that's just for the content that's in this
Mm-hmm.
playtest packet, which is, like I said, probably half of what the book's
Mm-hmm.
going to be. So
Right.
Matt doesn't do small books,
No, he does not. Yeah.
which I'm totally fine with.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, like reading through, I'm excited about the game, um, for because even as like I was just reading through what like the first words of this document, it says, "What is this game?" And as I'm like reading through it, it sounds like the exact kind of game that I like to run. First paragraph says, "This is a
Yeah.
game about fighting monsters." About larger than life extraordinary heroes plunging into battle against terrifying monstrous enemies. Like that is just straight Matt Colville, and that's the kind
Yeah.
of games I like to run. Like I like the big monsters. I like the heroic moments. And so he actually goes in, or whoever wrote this goes in to talk about how the game is there will be comedy moments, but it's not a comedy game. There will be horror moments, but it's not a horror game. And it kind of compares it to all these other games, but they say that it is a tactical game and it is a heroic game. And so their goal is to make a game that is tactical, that requires teamwork, that requires you to think, that requires tactics, but it's also heroic. So you're going to feel big and mighty and fight scary, monstrous creatures that are just daunting. And you have to actually work together with your team. Like I don't know, like at least this first few paragraphs got me pretty excited. I like
Yeah.
it sounds like the kind of game I want to run, the kind of game I want to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love some of the game systems they referenced in this first
Mm-hmm.
paragraph too. They referenced Forbidden Lands, which I love,
Mm-hmm.
Call of Cthulhu, Shadow Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about what they're presenting here.
Yeah.
And so they talk about it being a tactical, heroic, cinematic fantasy game.
Right.
And they give a breakdown of those 4 sections. But what does that kind of mean to you? Like, what do you take away from that section, Jeff?
Yeah, so for me, I think that it leads me to think that you're going to be playing a game that actually makes you feel like a hero in the story, right? Like it
Mm-hmm.
makes you feel like you are the central focus of the story. Like you're playing a character that's really out there making a difference, and it's tactical. So you're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to actually work with your team. It's not just run up and hit something, hit something, hit something, hit something. Like, no, you've got to actually tactically figure out how you're going to cover this. And I feel like at the end of the fight, you're gonna feel like you actually won the fight. You actually got the victory, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I think is that you're gonna feel like the big hero that that you are. You're the player. You should be the central focus of the story,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like you're gonna feel like that.
Yeah, and tactical to me also says, hey, this is played on a gridded map.
Yeah,
When you're getting down into
absolutely.
the combat, that's what you're gonna be
Hmm.
doing. Being heroic but also being cinematic. Having those chances to role play, having
Right.
those chances to have those really cool moments is something that I think is essential
Hmm.
in a fantasy TTRPG.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think that's going to be great. Um, I think I think you're right in that it's going to be just different enough from the kind of like D20 systems
Hmm.
that it is going to have a little bit, maybe not more crunchy of a feel in the tactical combat nature, but I think because and I say that knowing
Hmm.
some of the things that we're going to talk about in a minute,
Sure. Yeah.
I think that it'll be just as fast as other games for combat and checks and stuff like that. But I think that it'll probably be rewarding for players who enjoy that tactical strategic element a little bit
Hmm.
more. So,
Right. Yeah. And I am one who does, like, as the DM and as the player, like, I love those combats where you're like everyone's standing up looking at the map and like
yeah.
thinking just what you're gonna do. Like, I don't know. Those are some of my favorite moments in TTRPGs.
Oh, no, that's yeah, I absolutely agree. I love those too. Um but, they do give a good brief overview saying if you're coming from D20
Hmm.
fantasy, there's a few things that you should know. It is a 2d10 system.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and one of the, like they give you a few examples of things that are different. So,
Hmm.
attacks automatically deal damage.
Yeah, that's
Basically, there's
interesting.
there's not a roll to hit.
Right.
It's a roll to see how awesome of a hit you do.
Right. Yes.
And so you can have a bad turn. You can have a tier 1 result that's not awesome. But at least you're making progress. The trick is
Hmm.
who's making progress faster, you
Hmm.
or the monster, because they too are not missing.
They too don't miss. Yeah,
Right.
that's fascinating.
So in that regard, combat doesn't take as long,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
It
I think
should
is
should be
good.
should be shorter. Yeah.
I think it's for people who have that tactical mindset. It helps people from getting bored
Hmm.
in combat.
Right.
Because yeah, I mean, especially if you go through 5 rounds or 5 player turns,
Hmm.
and you get to your turn and then you miss and you feel like you've done nothing,
Yeah.
and then you're done.
And then you got to wait another 10 minutes to do it again, by the
Yeah.
time it gets back around to you.
So, I do like their approach here.
Hmm.
You don't need to rest all the time. You
Yeah.
don't have to have short rest and long rest in order to recover what it is, your stamina and your
Mhm.
recoveries to continue on through combat. Also, the character options are different. Matt Colville, again, is known for his creative world building. And
Mhm.
so, things like their character classes, you know, he mentions that the conduit class is basically a cleric,
Mhm.
but in other ways, it's very different.
Right.
There's going to be some cool archetypes that are different, and we'll get to see those, I think. So, also the bonuses and penalties are going to be smaller.
Mhm.
When you're always doing damage, when you're always hitting with your abilities and attacks, then you don't need those big swings in heavy damage. A plus
Right.
5, plus 10 to damage. You don't necessarily need to roll 20 dice worth of damage. Um,
Right.
so I think that's fine. I think that's
Mhm.
great.
Yeah, well, they even talk about, because it's a 2d10, so it's still, you're still going to 20. And so you think it's very similar, but they actually had done the math and found that the 2d10 system is actually quite a bit different than just a d20 system. And so the smaller penalties, the +1 or a -1, is actually quite a bit different than if it were just being rolled with a d20. Now, I don't know any of the math, but they say that, and I believe them. I
I do
believe they
too.
did the math. I'm not going to do it, but
Absolutely.
yeah.
Um, Also, there's a lot of skills, they say, meaning
Mhm.
that
There is a lot of skills. I have
I
the
think
character
there's going to
sheet
be a
pulled up
lot
here.
more. You're going to have a lot more specific skills. I think
Hmm.
so, which is great. I'm all for that. So, but yeah, so that's kind of some of the differences. What about the basics, Jeff? What are some of the
Real
things that
quick
you
on the
see?
skills, I'm guesstimating. I counted about half and I was at 30, so I think there's about 60 skills.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of skills. Yeah, so as we're kind of looking at the basics, let's start with something that we are all familiar with as you're building your character, right? Okay, I guess the very basics is it's going to play like a traditional fantasy TTRPG. You're going to have a GM or what they call a director. Um, Personally, I don't like that, so I'm going to go back with GM for me. But that's maybe just someone who's stuck in his ways a little bit. But you're going to have the GM and you're going to have, they say that, it's almost like a shared story experience. The GM's going to set the scene. The characters are going to respond how they're going to. And if there's ever a chance of failure, the GM will have them roll some dice to see how well they do on that. And then it does specifically say when combat begins, it's time to use a square gridded map.
Yeah.
And so, at least even in the rule book here, there's no theater of mind. He's saying when combat begins, it's time to pull out a map. And I'm all for that as someone who can't remember things very well. Theater of mind, often I'm like, so where are they? Who is it? What am I fighting? Like,
Yeah.
And so they do kind of add that. Then, whenever you get, what do you want to say any more about kind of that? Just the basics of
No,
that?
I think that's a fair. I think it's a fair distinction.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of people that can play Theater of the Mind really well. I think there's a lot more people who need the visual aids.
Right.
And so I think that's completely fair. Also, who doesn't like to see a map and
Right. Oh, absolutely.
miniatures on the table or on a virtual table? So
Yeah, so good. Absolutely, and I do love here they set a little scene. The director says this, and these players respond this way, and then right as it gets to the point of combat, it's not roll for initiative; it's draw steal. That's what you say right when you go into
yeah,
combat. And I think
yeah.
that's pretty cool. Um, but kind of as we move through that, we're going to go into what they call characteristics. We might call them ability scores, perhaps, or abilities. And so what we have listed is might, which is basically your strength, and what I would say is like your strength and constitution if you have a D&D background. Your agility, which is they say your coordination, your nimbleness, right? Your reason is the other one, which is kind of like your logical mind, your education. So I'd say your intelligence and your wisdom. Then you have like intuition, which is your instincts or your experience, and then presence or your personality or your charisma, right? So these are what we're working with, and all of these you're either going to have the two extremes are you can have a -5 or a plus up to a +5. So from -5 to +5, and they say as a general basis, a normal average human would have a 0 on about everything. So if you can imagine, that's kind of your scope of what the difference would be if you have a negative or a plus in something.
I like how they say a baby bunny would be a -5 on might.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but I mean, again, that's not too different. Like we're used
Mhm.
to in D&D 5e.
Yeah,
D&D has your ability score, but then the bonus for the score is -5 or +5
sure,
in the
right.
extreme. So
Yeah, that's still fairly, for most of us, that's pretty normal. Then it kind of jumps into dice here, which we've already kind of talked about. You have the 2d10 system, which if you've been looking at some of the newer systems, like we have Daggerheart that came out, and it's a 2d12 system. Now, significantly different. The 2d12, obviously, just different numbers, but also you have a fear and a hope with Daggerheart. In this, you just have 2d10. They don't necessarily mean anything different, but that's what you're going to be rolling for your power rolls. I think is what they call them here.
I like
Uh,
that they also it's really just 2d10s and
mhm.
2d6s is all that
That's
you
all you need.
need to play the game.
Hmm.
They talk about D3s or like
Hmm.
3-sided dice, but basically you're just going to roll a d6 and count it as 2.
Yeah.
And count, it's going to be 1
Like
through
a 1,
3
2 is
and
a 1, a
yeah.
3, 4 is a 2, and a 5, 6 is a 3. Yeah.
So there's not an actual 3-sided dice you have to worry about getting
Hmm.
or anything, but it's a lot simpler as far as what people need to play.
Right.
But yeah, then like said, like you mentioned, there's the power rolls and the power roll outcomes,
Hmm.
which are the tiers.
Yeah,
Um,
this is particularly interesting. I thought.
yeah, so there's 3 tiers. What do those entail?
Yeah, so whenever you make a power roll, and they kind of give some examples, if you're going to attack or you're trying to sneak past a guard, or anytime you're trying something with an uncertain outcome, you have basically 3 tiers that your roll can fall into. And so it says if your power roll is an 11 or lower, so 2d10, you roll 11 or lower, you get a tier 1 result. Now, this is the worst result. It says for using ability, a tier 1 result means you still do something, but the impact of what you do is minimal, right? With this result, an attack ability might deal a little bit of damage and not do much else, right? And so, but then if you roll a 12 to 16, that is a tier 2. And if you roll a tier 2, obviously you do a little bit more. You do a little bit more damage or you succeed more. And then you go all the way to a tier 3 where it's a 17 or higher, and obviously that is the highest tier. You're going to do the most damage, and you're going to do all those things. I wanted to say, kind of tag onto that. There's something in a moment we're going to talk about called edges and banes. And it
Yeah.
sounds like advantage and disadvantage, but it's actually quite a bit different. In the sense that rather than like rolling extra dice, you actually just get to add a +2 or a -2. But you can actually double up if you have like 2 edges. And we'll get into what those specifically are. But if you get 2 edges, it automatically bumps you up 1 tier. So it's not, you don't get +4. It's instead of rolling a tier 1, you now automatically roll a tier 2. Or instead of,
Yeah.
if you'd rolled a tier 2, you automatically roll a tier 3. And I think that's really cool. Like that's just an automatic benefit, right?
Yeah.
Like you automatically deal more damage. It's not like, because I've rolled advantage and rolled two
It's
d20s under 5,
and it's a genuinely unique take
It is.
on that kind of system. So I am interested to check it out for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so edges and banes, you mentioned those, but let's go ahead and mention it. So an edge represents situational advantage a hero or an enemy has when making a power roll. For example, a standing hero who makes a melee attack against a prone creature gains an edge on the power roll for their attack. It's very similar to advantage in the situational effect. But the application is where it's different. Instead of instead of rolling 2 dice, you add 2 to the roll.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
you can have a double edge or a double bane,
absolutely.
or they can cancel each other out. If you have 1 edge and 1 bane, they just nullify each other.
Yeah. So, so yeah, I do think that's pretty cool. I do like that. There's also some things called hero tokens, which are kind of for that narrative swing,
right?
Essentially, and so we're gonna kind of leave that alone for a minute so we can get into some of the other stuff. But
keep moving on.
There's
okay.
a lot, but we want to get into
There
a little
is.
bit of the character building.
Right.
But yeah, I think obviously for the main portion of this, you still got PCs and NPCs.
Sure.
You have what was it with the victories that you said?
So victories, it's actually kind of plays into character building a little bit as well. So Draw Steel in itself is an XP based game. Now he does say in here that you can play it how you want. You can do milestone leveling if you want, but it's built to be XP based. And so what happens is every time your group wins a battle, right? And now he specifically says it has to be a contested battle. You can't. I think the illustration he uses, you can't carry around a bag of rats and just kill rat after rat and think that's a victory. That doesn't count. It has to be, the DM's discretion, right? But after every victory, you store 1 victory point, right? So say you go and you end up with 3 challenging combats. Again, rest is not a necessity. You get spell slots and all that back without having rest. So you could have 3 combats in one day. You get 3 victory points. Now, as soon as you take a rest or a respite, is what they call it, you actually get to, those victory points move over to XP points. And so you get to move those 3 over, and that's your XP. And you just keep building up. And I think for level 1 at 9 XP, you level up to level 2. And so after basically 9 victories, you level up to level 2.
Which is
pretty cool.
I think that's, I'm sure, 5e probably translates something to like that, where
Hmm.
it's like if you were to have 9 combat encounters, or even just 9 encounters that give you XP, you'd probably
Yeah,
be at
it would be very
you'd probably be
close.
very close. Because at level
Yeah.
1, an encounter is going to give not a ton, but
Mhm.
I feel like it still takes a lot in D
It,
and
it
D
still
five
take
E
yeah.
to get
So I
to level
actually
2.
yeah. So I do run XP on all my campaigns. One, because milestone leveling isn't great for me with ADHD. I often forget to level up my characters. Even if I'm like at this point they're going to level up, it doesn't matter. I'll forget. Whereas with XP, my players always remind me to tell them how much XP they got.
Nice.
And of course, I have my own like kind of homebrew way that I award it based on like successes, just like in if whether it was in a conversation, it was in sneak, or it was in combat. Um, but yeah, what I was going to say with that is it, usually in D&D it's based on like your CR rating and how challenging the combat was. And I think really it probably comes out very similar. I'm sure the MCDM team did it on purpose, that it's probably pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you're using much bigger numbers. And so with like MCDM, you're going from level, 1 XP to 9, and that's a level. Whereas in D&D, it might be like 1400 is when you're going to level up. And I
Right.
think just this makes the math a little bit easier with
I
draw
agree.
steel.
It's like they've simplified the gamification of
Hmm.
XP leveling, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
exactly. And
So
and I think that makes it a lot more appealing.
yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I would use this system as
Hmm.
opposed to I don't ever use XP in D&D.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am a milestone
Oh yeah, I know.
all the way,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which
No,
I'm
I
sure
mean,
drove you
I learned
crazy,
to play
but
from you. No, I
yeah.
learned to play from you, and so I always did milestone leveling. But then my players would message me like 3 months into a campaign. They're like, "So when are we going to level?" And I'm like, "I forgot we did that." Uh, like, I'm like, "I'm glad you mentioned
Yeah.
it." And so I eventually just moved over to XP,
I
and
mean,
I like
I've
it. It works
had
for me.
players mention it a few times, but generally it's more because it's more often because we've missed some weeks, and
Yeah, yeah, and it feels like a long
and
time.
it feels like we haven't leveled in a long time because
Hmm.
but then when you think about, oh, well, in game time it's been like 2 days.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah, and I mean,
so
in TTRPGs, leveling for the most part is slow. Especially, I mean, I don't know if you still start all your campaigns at 3, but I always start my campaigns at 3.
I'm
And
pretty
and
partial
so
to it.
yeah, and
Maybe
so going from 3
2.
to 4 is a lengthy amount of time.
Now, I will say with all these other systems that have come out,
Hmm.
they all the new ones that have been coming out have done a lot better by level 1 as far as like
You're
making it
right. I was
appealing
talking
to
5e specifically there.
yeah.
I always
But
start with 5e at
5e,
level 3.
it's just like I said, a lot of times maybe I'll start at 2 for like the first session, but then
Hmm.
have them be level 3 by the time we get to
Oh
it.
yeah. Yeah, that works. I
So,
mean, yeah.
okay,
Okay.
so just a minor snippet about the lore of Draw Steel. Uh, the world is called Orden. That is the kind of
Mhm.
like material plane or main lands or world environment, planet, maybe. And then they have the Timescape, which is the, similar to the multiverse or the Tales of the Valiant Labyrinth. So there's multiple planes, multiple worlds, and so that's the Timescape. And so they give some really cool information on that. Not going to go over it right now, but I think it's a really cool system and sounds fun for sure. But it does tie into
Yeah.
some of the character creation. So that's what we're going to finish the rest of the episode on
Right.
is making a hero. Okay, we're not gonna make a hero per se, but we're gonna look at each step and the things that they included to finish off. So, making a hero. If you're not the director, then you create and play one of the main characters in this game's story. A hero. Your hero is a person motivated to fight forces of evil, to protect the innocent, but each hero has their own personal reasons for doing so. You don't have to be a pure beacon of good. Heroes have flaws and are complex, just like the people in the real world, but your hero should be someone who isn't afraid to battle monsters for altruistic reasons. If you're only interested in playing a money-grubbing sellsword, you can achieve that with these rules, but you'll likely be happier playing another game. I thought that was an interesting distinction. They're like,
Yeah.
hey, this is for the high fantasy.
Hmm.
You're a hero. You're the good guy. You're going to defeat monsters,
That
save
makes me
the
so
innocent.
happy.
I agree. I agree.
I like
I
it. Really
love
does.
this.
Yeah.
I am not ever going to be playing an evil character.
Hmm.
I may play a chaotic character,
Hmm.
probably more on the lines of chaotic good though.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Maybe
usually in my
a
session
neutral,
0,
but yeah.
I will go over with my players what it's going to be because like I like to always tell people before they start making their character, I'm like, this is a good campaign. You are expected to be heroes in this. Or if my players wanted to play an evil campaign, I just need everyone on the same page. But if you're playing something I've like pre-written and pre-set up, you're probably
Yeah.
going to be the hero,
Well, and
and I need you to be
I'm
that in some
just
way.
personally, I'm
Hmm.
probably not going to run an evil campaign. You
Yeah.
know, I may have a campaign that would maybe have like be a little bit more dark,
Hmm.
but it's still going to be based on a company of heroes kind of thing. So
Right.
that
Yeah.
hero's journey.
Hmm.
Heroes can have
Yeah.
flaws. Flaws are fantastic.
Oh
I
yeah.
love
Yeah.
flaws,
Flaws are
but
great.
yeah.
Yeah, until they affect the
So
rest of the party in
so
a
no,
negative way.
agreed. I do
Yeah.
like this as their kind of
Hmm.
statement for what kind of game this is going to be.
Yeah. I've
But
really just, I mean, to me, it also makes me happy because just even the repetition of the word hero, it's showing like you are a hero. Like, I mean, you're
yeah,
creating a hero. You're going to be the hero. Like, I
absolutely.
think it just sets you up for that, which I like.
They talk about the first session and
Hmm.
creating your hero, your player character. So there's step by step rules in here. We're gonna go kind of quickly through them so we can talk about the kind of the big three things: the ancestries and the classes, um, and then talk a little bit about those. But they have you think about what kind of character you want to do, create and play.
Hmm.
Then you choose your ancestry, which they have 12 ancestries. I'm going to list them now, and we'll mention them in more detail later. But they have devils, they have devils, which are kind of the tieflings,
Hmm.
dragon knights, dragonborn, kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, dwarves, Hakan, which are kind of half giants,
Half giants, Goliath-ish,
Goliath-ish,
if you
yes.
will.
High elves, humans, mnemonics, which are they're kind of extraplanar beings. So they're beings from another plane, essentially.
You happen to have
Or
them up on the
no,
recording?
we'll show them in a second.
Okay. Okay.
Um, orcs, polders, which are the half-sized ancestry.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
think of them as kind of a combination of gnomes and halflings.
Right.
Called polders. Revenant, which are undead.
Right.
Time raiders, which are also extraplanar, kind of.
Mhm.
But they have four arms, which is kind of cool.
That is cool. I'm excited to see what comes out of that just mechanically as well.
They talked about how you're not going to get like four attacks. It's not a thing. So
Never mind. I don't even want to play it now.
he already said that. So
Well, my
um,
NPCs will get 4 attack. No, just kidding.
um, but then and then last but not least the woad elves, which are wood elves, kind of, but
Yeesh.
they're very different. I think
They're
they're all
very
very
different.
cool. All of them are very different, and so I
Yeah.
love that they're different
Hmm.
in that regard. Then you create a culture, which is your hero's culture. So your ancestry will give your hero a number of like physiological benefits. Your culture describes the community that raised you, gives you languages and skills. Then you have your career, which is different than your class, by the way. So it's what you did for a living before you
Right.
became a hero. I love that. So I love
Right.
that it's like, hey, you used to have a career.
Right.
Maybe you were a woodcarver. Maybe you were a
Hmm.
mason or a blacksmith. So no, I love that they have that, and then they also mentioned there's going to be a whole bunch of crafting rules that are coming later.
Hmm. Yeah.
Excited for that.
Yeah, so that is one of the things in the all the skills. I said there's close to 60 skills. There could be exactly, I don't know. But in that they're kind of sectioned off, and there is a section for crafting skills.
Yeah,
And there's like
yeah,
alchemy, blacksmithing,
that's
architecture.
exciting.
That's very exciting. Yeah.
That's one thing that 5e doesn't do as well as other
Hmm.
systems. So
Yeah. Now there's homebrews out there that make that amazing, but
absolutely.
it's not built in. Yeah.
Then there's your class, obviously, and again, they said they're gonna have 9 classes,
Hmm.
but they're only giving us 5 for right now.
Hmm. How dare
But
they?
what I think
How
is
dare
really
they?
cool is that, well, hold on.
Hmm.
Let's see. So there's a sensor, a conduit, an elementalist, a fury, a null, a shadow, a tactician, a talent, or a troubadour. So those are all 9 classes. So
That's
we
all
do
nine.
know.
That's all 9 of them.
So we do know the names. However, for
Hmm.
this test, we only have conduit, elementalist, fury, shadow, and tactician.
Right.
So yeah, that's gonna be cool. Then your kit, which is your gear, obviously. Uh, Add free strikes. Every hero has the ability to make free strikes under certain circumstances. Extra attacks that don't require your action. You can also make a free strike as an action on your turn, though you'll usually have a better option for your action. Your class might grant you a free strike option, but each character also has 2 standard free strikes. A melee weapon free strike is a melee attack made with an unarmed strike or an improvised weapon. A ranged free strike is a ranged attack made with an improvised weapon. So interesting that those are free strikes.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we'll have to see that. But then there's also complications. So, you know,
Well, real quick, I wanted to at the free strike just with the for the
yeah.
example of the tiers
Mm-hmm.
that we talked about earlier. With say the melee weapon on an 11 or lower, you deal 2 damage. On a 12 to 16, you deal
Yes.
6 damage, and a 17 plus, you deal 9 damage. So that's where your tiers kind of come in. And again, if
Yeah.
you had an edge, you'd automatically get to bump it up. Or I'm sorry, if you had a double edge, you'd automatically get to bump it up one. That's where just having double edge could automatically take you up to 9 points of damage.
No, I do like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's a great place to show that example.
right.
Okay. So then there's complications, which are, an event that left you with a benefit and a drawback. So it's kind of those uh, character flaws and character traits that you would do. Then choose some more details about your character, and then make connections with other characters or stuff like that. I love that. Okay. There's rules for character advancement. We're not going to go into that.
Right.
But then we go into ancestries,
Hmm.
and Matt Colville just does such a good job with his ancestries
Of
because
course.
they are familiar yet completely different, and I love that. So
Hmm.
he has a really cool kind of introduction to that. It's a little, he gives lots of little narrative cinematic examples, which is pretty cool.
Of course. Yeah.
But then he says, starting size and speed. So unless otherwise noted, everyone is a size 1M, which I'm assuming is medium, and
That's my
your
assumption.
speed is 5, which I'm assuming is 5 squares on the
Five
grid.
squares. Yeah, everything is in squares. So
So as opposed to
not feet or anything like that, just 5.
That's
Yeah.
one thing that I feel like a lot of newer systems are doing. They're getting rid of the conversion.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they're just trying
So,
to simplify things, like just simplify it. Why do we have to go 5, 10, 15, 20? I mean, I guess that's easy. Most of
and
us know how
I
to count
I
by
think
5,
it's
but
I think it's trying to, you know, like all the systems that use those are trying
mhm.
to make it immersive, saying, "Oh, you ran 5 feet," and so in my mind, I know
that
what five
makes I
feet
mean, that
is.
does make sense. Yeah.
You know, unless I'm European or
Hmm.
other people who don't use the superior measurement system of feet, yards, inches. I'm just gonna make
I
everyone
know.
mad.
I can't. I can't even. I don't even. I'm about to leave.
Don't act like you don't.
We actually had a long conversation about this at Reach Conference this week, and I can't even remember why, but we were talking about like the different
That's funny. That's funny.
measurements and how it happened. I don't know.
Okay, so we already mentioned what they all were, but you've got devils, which are the kind of tiefling characters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna kind of skim the benefits. So, fiendish features. Okay. Um, you could have. So here's the thing: each of the ancestries, you have options to choose from. And so when you create a devil character, you have 3
This is
fiend
really stinking
points.
cool.
It is very cool. You have
It's very
3
cool.
fiend points, and you get to choose which characteristics of a fiend you want to have. So, for example, do you want to have a barbed tail? Your pointy tail allows you to punctuate all your actions. Once per round, you can deal 1 extra damage on a melee attack or a free strike because you have a barbed tail.
Because you have a barbed tail, and that's 1 fiend point for that.
That's 1 fiend point.
And you
Or
have
you
3.
could have beast legs. So you could have the strong legs that let you improve your speed. That's 2 points though. So you could have an exposed skeleton, very cool and creepy sounding, right? Your bones are visible, but they're hardened above your skin, granting you weapon immunity too. So glowing eyes, hellsight, horns, a prehensile tail, wings, all of these have a point cost, and so you can mix and match to get to 3.
So you're like, you can play, like 3 of you in your campaign could be playing the exact same ancestry and still be wildly different from each other, right? Like you have
Absolutely.
different things you're good at. Like, I mean, I think that is such a cool idea, and I don't know that I've seen this anywhere else actually, that you can customize your ancestry itself to give yourself real in-game benefits.
Yeah. Let me show an example of a devil, by the way, because
Oh yes, you
they
have the
did
images, yeah.
include an art folder with an example of each one. So, if you're watching the video, you can
Right.
see an example here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Actually, I have it already open.
Which is funny to look like, even at it. I assume you have the image up now. Like looking at this, they are
Almost.
wildly different, right? We have two devils that are
They
very
are.
different. Like even to the feet, to the tail, to obviously
Oh,
the horns and the coloration. Just kind of showing again how different you can build your character.
absolutely, absolutely. So, also I find it funny that they have this devil in like a old school robes with a
Judge type
judge's
thing.
wig. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah. I don't know what's going on here.
I don't either.
But it's cool. I'm cool. I'm there for it.
Yeah. So, okay. So then we get to the Dragon Knights,
Mhm.
which are very cool as well. Again, they give you some really cool lore and flavor for it. But then you have as a Dragon Knight, you have the following benefits. Okay, you have Worm Plate, which means that you have hardened scales, granting you immunity 5 to 1 type of damage. And it gives you basically cold, corruption, fire, lightning, or poison. And so it's kind of that, choose your damage type.
Right.
Then you also have knighthood. So the legacy of the dragon phalanx lives in you. Choose one of the following benefits. So you automatically have worm plate, which is the elemental.
Immunity.
It's the elemental immunity.
Mm-hmm.
But then knighthood, all dragon, all of the said characters are dragon knights.
Right.
So I love that.
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a big fan
That's
of
so
knights. But you have knighthood.
Yeah.
So you have, you get to choose. So then it says the legacy lets you choose one of the following, and then there's 3 options. So you have Dragon Rush, which as a maneuver you can fly in a straight line up to your speed, and which so allowing you to fly. Draconian Guard or Draconian Rush, Draconian Guard, which lets you. It's basically what's the ability in D&D where you can, if a creature next to you is attacked, you can basically you're triggered to guard against the blow and reduce damage for that character.
Yeah, yeah. I know
Love
I know
that.
which one you're talking about. But it's not.
And then Draconian Pride, which again you can use the following ability. You basically let out a roar, and it's that kind of like breath weapon ability, but at their own special take to it. So again,
Right.
with
Oh,
tier 1, 2, and 3
yeah. And the tiers are so
examples.
good. They're so cool.
Yeah,
Because it's not just damage. Like there's
it's not
also like
just
push,
damage.
so you
Yeah.
can actually move them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a push 1 and tier 2. You get to push 3. At tier 4, you push 5, and you give them the frightened condition,
Yeah, it's so cool.
which is really cool. Yeah.
So that's the Dragon Knight, and again, let me show off the art for that. Very cool, very cool.
Oh, absolutely. And again,
Gonna
you
zoom
see
in
how
here.
kind of different the characters are here.
Yeah, yeah, so cool. So, okay. Then we have dwarves. Okay, dwarves are not your typical dwarves because nothing that Matt Colville does is typical.
Exactly.
So dwarves, hold on. There was one thing I needed to read about dwarves that I was going to say here. Let's see.
Okay.
Where was it at? Okay. This is kind of to tell you. Remember, we are dwarves. Our strength is the strength of the earth, the strength of the marble column that rises to the heavens, the strength of the granite foundation that reaches deep into the ground. But what is the value of strength if it's not used in the service of justice? So I love that as a dwarven hero. Dwarves in this world, they have they are the colors of stone, which I love.
Right. Yeah.
So as a dwarf character, you have the following benefits. You are grounded. Your heavy stone body, you are made of stone, it seems. Your heavy stone body and connection to the earth makes it difficult for others to move you.
Yeah.
So automatically can't
So
be
the
moved
move
as
we're just talking
easily.
about. Yeah.
Runic carvings. Basically, because you're made of stone, you have runic carvings that you can carve magic runes on your skin. And then you can, let's see, you can change or remove this rune within 10 minutes of work while not engaged in combat. So you can change the runes on your skin, which is crazy. There's one for detection, one for light, where your skin sheds light. It's so cool.
That is really cool. 10
or-
squares too, like pretty
10
bright
squares
light.
is pretty bright. Or voice. As a maneuver, you can communicate telepathically. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Or detection is you can choose a specific type of creature like goblins or humans or an object such as magic swords, and you can detect them. So cool. So cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So love that. And then your spark off your skin. Your stone skin affords you potent protection and extra stamina. Ugh, so cool.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
very cool.
Okay, we gotta kind of speed this up a little bit.
I was gonna say, yeah. I think we're probably getting close to time, and there's several more ancestries to go through.
You know what? We've gone through 3.
Yeah.
But
Just trust us that the rest are going to be equally as
yes.
awesome.
So elf woad. I'm going to show you the pictures at least. Okay.
Yeah. Let's go through the pictures.
So you have the elf, the woad elves, which are.
Sort of a wood elf, but definitely a different appearance.
I'm gonna actually go in the order of the pictures. So there's the dwarfs. They look awesome. Love that. Then there's the high elves. Okay. So kind of your traditional elves a little bit, but again, very unique and very cool traits. The woad elves, which appear to have bat ears.
Right. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, they're very interesting.
Very druidic, very forest wood elf motif. Right. Then there is the Hakan, which are the half giants,
which
very
look
cool
awesome.
Looking. Yeah. Then there's the humans, obviously. I do need to read what's on the humans.
I was gonna say, yeah, because humans, Matt really likes humans in his games, and so
he does. He wanted them to be the coolest humans that you could come up with.
Yes.
And so, let's see. Let's go to them real fast. Humans. Human benefits. As a human character, you have the following benefits: detect supernatural. Okay? As a maneuver, you open your awareness to detect supernatural creatures and phenomenon. Also, you're resistant to supernatural automatically.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have staying power. Your human anatomy allows you to fight, run, stay awake longer than others, and increase your recovery by 2. So
Yeah. Your number of recoveries by 2.
So yeah, that's just awesome. You can detect undead and constructs and creatures
Right.
from other planes, and then you have resistance to magics from some of those. So that is probably one of the coolest
Right.
humans, not just you get an extra ability point.
Right.
So
It's noticed that like in this world, humans actually have some special abilities.
yes, love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you've got the mnemonics, which, like I said, are the extraplanar beings, ancestry.
Very cool looking.
Kind of, I don't know, kind of space elvish, maybe. I don't know what to compare them to. But I mean, this girl has a helmet and a ray gun.
Yeah, I'm seeing that as well.
Yeah. So I think I really do think that it's like that very extraplanar kind of cool things. Then you have orcs, which are awesome looking.
Very cool looking. Yeah.
They have this kind of facial ridges and stuff like that that are different. Having played Cosmere recently makes me think of the of the listeners.
The listeners, yeah. No, I thought the same thing. If they were red, uncanny.
Yeah.
It's even got like the striping and stuff on the skin.
Yeah. The polder, which are the small form factor, small halfling gnome. Yeah. The revenants, which are the undead, and then you've got the time raiders. Again, very familiar.
Not 4 attacks.
Very familiar looking in the kind of green skin and like crazy colorful hair and stuff. But yeah, 4 arms, so that's going to be different. So anyway, those are the images for them. If you're not a backer, but you can get a hold of these, definitely check them out. The mnemonics are very cool. I'm just going to hold on real quick. I'm going to give one ability for each of these things. So, Woad Elf's benefits are like graceful. You're very swift. And then you can alter your appearance, which is very cool. High Elves' benefits are glamour, which is like gives you more presence. Also otherworldly grace, but then unstoppable mind. So kind of that magic mental resistance. Hakan, like I said, they kind of half giants. Their benefits are Doomsight, which I'm not sure what that does. But then you also have extra might, and you're undaunted. You can't be weakened, which is cool.
Right.
We talked about humans. The mnemonics, their benefits are lightweight. Your silicone body is aerodynamic and low in density. So they're made out of silicone. Okay, cool.
Right. That's very interesting. Okay.
And then they're keepers of order. So orcs, they have the Bloodfire Rush. Love it. Very orc themed.
Very orc like, yeah.
Yes, and they're relentless. Again, very orc themed. Polder benefits are Poltergeist. Wah, wah. No creatures have line of sight on you. You can basically hide, which is kind of cool. You can shadow meld, definitely be more stealthy, which is cool. Revenant, former life. There's some really cool undead vibe abilities that are going on there, which is very cool. And then you're also tough. Your undead body grants you, some immunity stuff, which is pretty cool.
Right.
Time Raiders, like I said, as the last but not least, they have foresight, meaning they have a little bit of peering into the future. They have 4 arms. which I'm sure is going to make them more dexterous. And then they have Psionic Gift,
Mhm.
which is cool. So,
Yeah.
so
Before we end, I wanted to hit one last thing
yes,
that
go for
would
it.
normally be kind of boring in every other game, but I don't think anything in this game is actually going to be boring. And that's kits, like your gear. You know, the crap you pick at the very end of making your character.
Yeah,
In draw steel, there are actually martial kits and caster kits, and they're not just very basic. Like, I mean, obviously they come with what you want, but there's actually abilities and stuff that come with the kit you choose. Like, for instance, the martial artist kit gives you a +3 stamina bonus, a +3 speed bonus, and +2s all the way across all 3 tiers of your melee weapon bonus damage.
yeah,
It also gives you a signature ability within your kit, which is Battle Grace. It says you feint to move your enemies in a perfect position, and uh, Battle Grace actually does damage, and based on the tiers, and then you can swap places with a target on a tier 2 and tier 3. Like, again, this is that tactical stuff that I was talking
yeah,
about in the beginning. But there are different kits, and all the different kits have different bonuses and different abilities and things. And there's kits for martial characters, there's kits for casters,
yeah.
and I don't know, like that just made this part of character creation super exciting because normally you're like, I don't know, which one of these gives me the best stuff to use, but this is actually giving you like abilities and bonuses
Hmm.
and stuff.
And so too do the careers, which are like backgrounds. So you've
Right?
got
Yeah.
I was a criminal, or I was a gladiator, or a laborer, or a mage's apprentice,
Hmm.
or a soldier. So there, it's going to be awesome.
It. Yeah.
We are definitely going to have to go through and have a character creation, an actual character creation
Hmm.
session, and then
Yeah,
actual play
I
for this.
really
So
think so. The character creation is so in depth. I'm like, I'm really excited for it.
I am too. I am too.
Which is honestly not. I mean, it's a good thing, sure. But I thought this podcast was going to help me choose a game system to switch to. But
No,
now I've got like four that I want to switch to, and I don't know
it's
what to do
not.
with that.
It's not.
It's making it much
Um,
harder, actually.
okay, a little bit about the classes. There's only five, so we're going a little long, so bear with us. But the classes, the conduit, which is kind of like a cleric, okay, the power of the gods flows through you. So there's deities that they give information on, um, but then there's powers like prayer or domain effects. And so they have a whole bunch of domains. Um, and so yeah, there's going to be a lot of flexibility within characters.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
looking at this: knowledge domain, life domain, love domain, nature domain, protection, storm, sun, trickery, war. You know, those are all just within creation, death, fate. These are all just within things that you can have at level 1.
This is great.
So, and then there's so many things. I mean, like to
Mhm.
choose from to customize it. So
Mhm.
I think there's going to
Yeah.
be, like I said, the conduit is the kind of cleric type class, but I think it's going to be, you're going to be able to much more, you have much more customization options
Right.
for each
You
class.
can build your character exactly how you want it.
Yes, absolutely.
And
And so there's, like I said, there's a bunch of abilities to go through. Not going to go through those right now.
mhm.
Elementalists, okay? This is to me the druids, the shamans. Uh, so I like how you probably could go both directions with that. Um, but yeah, it lets you. Um, let's see, level 1 features. You can manipulate 7 primal elements of the timescape: air, earth, fire, green, rot, void, and water.
Hmm. Okay.
So it's almost like green and rot are kind of, it's like growth, life,
Hmm.
plants, and then
Sure.
rot,
Yeah, yeah, makes
death,
sense.
decay, debuffs. And then void, which is the like extraplanar
Hmm.
energy kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think that's awesome. And like I said, being able to customize that in there's I mean there's 7 different directions you could probably
Right.
focus
Yeah, I
here.
know.
So yeah,
And
I
that
do
is
think that's
again at first level. You
yeah
get your element tool
because these are
specialization.
all first level builds
Hmm.
essentially. So uh, it's not just that. It's so the elementalist. I'm not sure. I feel like it's speech of the wild, practical magic. These things again. These kind of make me
Right.
think of shamans and druids and stuff. So,
Hmm.
but there's things like fire lance or void ray,
Right.
which are some magic abilities. So I think that's pretty awesome. A
Yeah.
fury. A fury. You do not temper the heat of battle within you. Unleash it like a raptor or a panther or a wolf. So I don't know. Maybe this is a little bit more more of the druid, but
Oh,
it's
see,
also like the
oh,
warrior.
maybe. I was thinking this was like the barbarian, but maybe I'm wrong.
Actually, yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. So, um, primordial chaos is your ally. Leave it to others to use finesse. Yeah. So I take it. It's
Yeah. Oh
more
yeah,
of the barbarian.
you get a rage. There's rage. It's a
That's
barbarian.
true. It's a barbarian. Rage, mighty leaps. Um, primordial aspects: berserker, reaver, storm white. Uh, yeah, they all say you channel your rage. You
Yeah,
channel your rage. So yeah, barbarian for sure. But like
barbarian.
just the
Mighty leaps. You just always succeed on might tests to jump. Just always succeed.
love
That's
it.
crazy. That's
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know we're going through this, and again, there's kits in here that, like you said, have some really cool
Yeah,
stuff
the
that
kids are so
add to
cool.
it.
Yeah.
Man,
Oh, what am I looking at?
shadows, subtlety is your art, the tip of the blade, your brush. You studied at a secret college specializing in alchemy, illusion, or shadow magics. So I don't know. I mean, like to me, this is like
I think this
um,
is well.
a
This has
sorcerer or
animal form.
warlock. Sorcerer or warlock, though, is kind of like what
Okay.
I'm getting here. So yeah, it does have animal form. You're right.
Like at least one, you get to be a bear.
I don't even
And
know.
I don't know.
And again, these are the differences that Matt
Right.
Colville and MCDM. It's nothing like some. There are some things that are similar and some things that are not.
Hmm.
So,
Right. Yeah.
um,
And so that's things I don't think we're going to be able to lock it into one particular thing.
no,
Like this is druid-esque because you can take an animal form, but it's probably not just a druid. You could probably build this in many different ways.
yeah. But then you have Code of the Blade, which is like poisons, being
Mhm. Oh
uh,
yeah.
oh man, there's so many cool stuff.
This is gonna be fun to play. I'm
It
excited.
is. It
I feel
is.
like it's gonna be crunchy. Like I mean, I really do. I think it's gonna live up to that
Yeah.
crunchy, tactical, heroic game, like it said in the very beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tactician, strategist, defender, leader. So to me, this is the fighter, but it's the tactical,
Hmm.
smart military mind version of that. You've got mastermind, vanguard, insurgent. Love these things. The tactical
Yeah, very
doctrines.
cool. Oh,
Um,
the sorry, I just realized the coat the blade that you've seen,
yeah.
that was actually part of the shadow. The shadow was
Right. Right. That's I did.
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought I said that. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, I was still looking at the storm white.
No. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. That was a shadow.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, very cool things for the tactician as well.
Mhm.
Um, so again, a very quick glance at the classes,
Yeah,
uh, because we're trying to get through it here. We're already at an hour and
yep.
20. So, sorry, Matt. Sorry, not
Yeah, this
sorry.
one's
Honestly,
yeah, because there's a lot to go through, and which is funny.
there
There's a
is.
lot to go through in a 120-page book,
Yeah.
but no
Um,
pictures at all. So there's
but
really a
no
lot to cover.
pictures. So, but
Mhm.
hopefully our excitement will help you be excited about going through this and
Sure.
reading through it because there is a lot. I mean, us going through it together has made me more excited about it for sure.
Honestly, yeah, me too.
And so yeah, the kits are very cool. Again, Matt just making things that much cooler than what they
Mhm.
are in kind of what we're used to. So,
Right.
um, yeah, absolutely, the kits are so cool.
Mhm.
Caster kits, And then yeah, it goes into complications, modifying your story, tests, when to make tests, how to make tests, difficulty and outcomes. There's a lot of the details on that as well. So, but yeah, there's, like I said, we wanted to take a look. We weren't going to read it all verbatim, but there was a lot we did want to kind of highlight because there's just so much, Jeff,
Right.
that sets this apart. And I'm looking forward to running it.
Yeah. No, I honestly,
So,
I am too. I, like I said, I think it's making my job really hard of trying to figure out what system I really want to run, you
it's
know?
true. It's true.
Like, yeah, because there's so many good ones out now.
I feel like at some point, Jeff, just on a non-content creation side of things, I
Yeah.
might have to start being like, okay, for this quarter of the year, these 3
Right.
months, I'm gonna run a game in this system,
This
and then I'm gonna
system.
run
Yeah.
a campaign in this system the next quarter, because
hmm
honestly, I don't know how else I'm gonna get to all these. So
Right. No, I'm kind of the same, and like I feel like I'm really not gonna know which system fits like my campaign and stuff the best until I try all of them in an extended form.
yeah,
Like the one shots give you a good idea, but like really until you're running and you're actually going climbing through levels and you're going through adventures and you're telling stories, like then you'll know, how well it fits.
and like I don't know. Honestly, as we grow in our
hmm
knowledge and our experience and our love of all these other TTRPGs,
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like too, it's like, you know what? I don't have to have a single campaign.
Right. Oh yeah.
So, you know,
Honestly, like
um,
I feel like I'm almost at some point going to be moving to one system, but still just bringing in elements of other systems and have some sort of like weird Frankenstein system that fits my party
yeah.
the best.
I love world building, and so I'm happy
hmm
to make new worlds for each one of these systems.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, that was a little bit longer than our normal episode length.
Yeah.
Sorry again,
So
sorry, Matt. But thank you all for joining us for this first look at Draw Steel, the MCDM new TTRPG system from Matt Colville and friends, and I'm super excited about it.
yeah, no,
I know
as am
you are
I.
too. But yeah, again, definitely check out the YouTube channel if you have not. Give us a like and subscribe at the RPG Rundown LTN.
Mhm.
We're still a part of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. However, we just, we were able to kind of like YouTube basically changed to where we could all have a channel underneath LTN. So
Mhm. Right.
definitely check that out. Find your other favorite shows there. Definitely check out some others, and props to them. So we love
Mhm.
LTN.
Absolutely.
Um,
I'm
but
LTN
yeah,
shirt on right now.
I know I did have mine on yesterday actually. So
Yeah.
well, I think that's gonna do it.
Mhm.
So again, hit us up on social media if you have any thoughts or questions. You can find us on X, Instagram, TikTok, any of those things. You can also find Jeff and I. There's going to be links in the show notes for those as well. But from our table to yours, thanks for joining us on the RPG Rundown.
Until next time, may your rolls be epic and your stories legendary.